Hello, Swarnali ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am, it's Swarali.
Swarali, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's okay. It's okay. Good evening, ma'am. How are
Good
you?
evening. I'm good.
Okay, so I think it's already 5:01,
Yeah.
so we can start this session.
Yeah.
So we
Before we
today.
start, I'm just sharing a link on the chat. Uh, this is for an activity that we'll be doing today. Just
Okay.
open this document in your devices and just keep that open with you. Right. Meanwhile, I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, and requesting you all to please stay active, ask questions if you have, because we have two sessions which is like interconnected. So yeah,
Is my screen
over to you,
visible?
Ardina. Yes, ma'am. Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Good evening, teachers. So, in the previous session, we discussed the principles of an assessment. So, when you're looking at an assessment as a whole, how do you, what are some things to keep in mind to move your assessment system from a rote-based system to a system that sort of can help diagnose students' misconceptions and can achieve the purpose of the assessment that we had outlined? And the purpose being key is the assessment able to capture valuable information beyond whether students are getting an answer right or wrong? Is it able to share more insights into students learning? And then is it also giving actionable insights into teachers, as in key if students are selecting a particular option or if they're writing answers in the case of subjective questions in a particular way, are we able to clearly identify what gaps there are so that we can plug that? So, connected to the previous session, today we will be exploring the art and science of question making. Any guesses why we are calling it both art and science? Why do you think question making is an art versus why do you think question making is a science? Okay, let me see. Um, yeah, teachers, I'd request you to unmute on Google and don't have to. I think Neeru ma'am is raising her hand. Uh, okay, art style of the question, style of writing the question is an art. So, and science is the techniques to be followed. Could you expand on this a little bit? Why is the style aspect an art?
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Ma'am, when we say framing questions is an art, we mean that the kind of language being used or the style of writing.
Yeah.
Um, what else can we say?
So Ratna ma'am mentioned a word here, creativity.
Right.
So we art is a creative endeavor, and there might be some techniques and processes involved even in art, but there is more scope for experimentation, right, and modification. So even while making questions, we may have certain principles and techniques to follow. We may have a process that we follow, but even the best and the best of question makers will have to use their creativity and will have to modify the way this field is an evolving field. What used to be a good question 15 years back is no longer considered, no longer be considered a good question. And I'll give you an example. So CBSE has this you know CBSE is sort of very inclined towards assertion and reasoning, right? Which now a lot of teachers are interested in including more AR questions from lower grades onwards. But when you think of it, is it really a good question type? That depends on the purpose. if you just for the sake of it include some assertion reasoning and it's not serving the purpose, the concept that you're testing assertion reasoning with is not really worth testing. आपने बस एक logical relationship के basis पे you have put some options where so it may not be a good question in that scenario. All right. So it's not always the question type which is good or bad, but how you use it, how you construct question. There is always a scope of creativity and experimentation, and there is also scope for like debate and discussion in that. Like you may not like that question, somebody may like that question, but why do we call it a science now? Ankita,
Because it is no more. I'm sorry, somebody else was speaking.
no, I was just reading out the
Okay.
comment, ma'am.
Okay, so the reason why it is called as science is because suppose if you have a what question, which question, how question. Okay, so which talks about which kind of a thing, how talks about the process, why talks about the reason behind it. So
Yeah.
if the question is in itself, the type of question that you ask is a science. So I
There
cannot.
are these specific
Yes.
components and
Yes.
all of those like a formula, right? ये चीजें होनी चाहिए in a good question. If you can actually create a checklist and say कि is my question following these parameters which are well established in the assessment research community, or are these like it should be objective in some way. अगर आप as a department you are doing question making, usually what might end up happening is your HOD may say ki, keep this, reject this, or there is a person of authority who usually approves or rejects question. But inside, I've interacted with a variety of schools while doing this workshop on ground, and many teachers may not think that their question is bad. They may not agree with what somebody else is saying, but for the purpose of creating the question by the deadline, we have to agree to disagree and then ultimately keep some questions. But ultimately, when the purpose is that the assessment should achieve some purpose, it's better when most of the community, most of the teaching community agrees that yes, this is a fair question, this is a good question, there is some parameter that we as a department have agreed to follow, and then as a team we can when we giving feedback also, suppose if an HOD is giving feedback ki why this question I'm rejecting, right? In every content process we do have those parameters, why we have style guides and stuff. So when it should not be person dependent, it should not be ki ye HOD ko ye teacher achhi lag gayi, so then she is approving all her questions, she's rejecting all the other. This is a very human process, right? So in that way, the scientific nature of question making comes from some of the well-established research and evidence on what what is getting you good clarity in terms of conceptual understanding, and also in terms of some objective processes you can follow as a department. Ki, okay, if you're saying this is good, why is it good? It's not person dependent. I hope that is clear. So both of these aspects we need to keep in mind as a department when we keep in mind question making. So today's session will be organized as follows. This session is actually split into two parts. Today we are meeting for 1 hour. We'll focus on some of the theory aspect of question making, and the second part will be more hands-on, where I would request I have requested Swarali ma'am's help to create those groups beforehand, since we are doing this online. The department wise groups should be created beforehand, that science teachers are creating questions together, math and English teachers are creating questions together, and the testing objective as well as the chapter that you will be referring to for creating the question should also be pre-decided. Then during the session we will spend more time on making the question and then doing the review process. Today we'll be focusing more on the theory. I'll just full screen my slide. We'll go back to the we'll go back deeper into at a question level. There are always, so as a department, aage bhi when you have to practically apply this, all of us should be in an agreement ki is this question good or bad, on if so on what basis. So we will start with a question rating activity. And before this was a recap. Previously we had done principles of an assessment. So just 2 hours of workshop will not drastically make a big difference in terms of this takes time. Question making and changing your process takes time. So my purpose is to equip you with some of the principles and some of the insider nuances that an assessment company like EI follows while creating a question, and then you yourselves can set those processes. To start with, suppose I urge the DPS team to set some goals for themselves. In the first month, we will just review whether our existing questions are matching some of these principles. हमारे टेक्स्ट बुक में कैसे एक्सरसाइजेस दिए गए हैं, आर दे कवरिंग एसेंशियल कॉन्सेप्ट्स, are they really at that level that we want to be, and then what are some modifications that we can make, and then the next step might be to create your own questions from scratch. So any of you, have you looked at some of this recap points, and have you started reflecting? Have you gone through the textbooks and made some notes regarding this? If you had any learnings from this exercise, I would request you all to unmute yourselves and share.
I have done it. Can I? It's
Yes,
Nagrani.
ma'am. Definitely.
Yeah. Hi. So I have went through these concepts that you have already posted here. So the 4 main skills that we're looking at is it's LSRW. So how do we go about it? In our wing, that is Jigyasa, we have upschool document that we're doing right now. This is this was there in my mind, so I could just relate it to it. So the students are going to write a story. That's the outcome of it. So the peripheral things that they're going to learn is digital literacy, presentation or cognitive skills development through the plot and settings, and the character descriptions as well. So apart from that, there were the 3 questions that you were asking, how the unfamiliar ways in which the key concepts can be tested here. So the first thing was their presentation skills that I wanted them to check here, and also the values that they're going to learn from that writing a particular story. Okay, so that was the third question. And the 4th one, create 3 question testing some concepts in a different way. So what are their learnings that they have curated while making that particular story? So that was the first question. What are the essential things required for the presentation skills? Because when they're doing the presentation skills with other schools, so it's a global platform going to come together and present in front of the entire community. So these were the 2 questions, and the peripheral concepts, like I said, the digital literacy that I was talking about, and the presentation skills and the cognitive level questions that they had in mind. Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So I see that you started with an objective that this is what I want to achieve through this exercise, and you're given students very specific prompts to work on with respect to their presentation skills, with respect to also noticing what their learnings are. And you've identified these are my core objectives, and peripheral, like nice to have, might be digital literacy and some of those aspects. So what I really liked from what you shared was the last 2 questions, right? What are your reflections from your learning, and what are some essential things to keep in mind in terms of presentation skills? So so what we call this is metacognition. So students are being aware of how they are learning and what they are learning. And usually suppose if you apply this to grammar, right? We usually may not get so much time to ask students, what have you learned from, what are some common things you can notice looking at these sentences, and how does it relate to the grammatical concepts that we have learned so far. So including these metacognitive questions which make students themselves think, okay, how did I learn this? What did I learn? What was new for me? What challenges did I face? I think that's a very good learning which we can carry forward to all departments.
Other than that, if I want to check their grammar, suppose the verbs and adjectives, I would just tell them to write down 5 adjectives, or probably identify some 5 to 10 adverbs and verbs to it and add them to the story. So that could be an add-on that I could do for the grammar concepts as well, even through the linkers that they can use. I mean, for the paragraph connection, so that they have an identification of everything.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. This was very nice to hear. Anybody else from math and science, have you done this exercise so far? If not, you can do this just with your textbook chapter. You're teaching something from Monday, just go through your textbook exercises and assess ki textbook ke piche do questions diya hai. Are they too direct? Are they really testing something essential, or are they testing something like which is more recall based? What changes can we make? So try and do this before you teach every chapter, and I think this will work well with the question making session that we're doing today. I can see some response.
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, ma'am. Math, framing their own questions in math.
Ma'am, I'm from DPS Lava. I'm a biology educator. And what I feel is with the grade 9th, especially the biology part, it's need to be upgraded. And this we have talked in HRDC also with the professors. Many of the key concepts, they are lagging. It's just superficial, I think. So
Yeah.
many of the key concepts which should be there. Whenever I go in the class, I discuss that in detail and tell students to frame their own questions, to make their own concept map, because then when they will frame their own questions, they will be in much more detail, so they will try to find out much more things.
So concept map is something you've added, and yeah, that is
Framing their
really
own
good.
questions, this will
And
lead
frame
to,
their own questions. Okay.
yes, this will lead to the research work. It
Ma'am,
will give them a
I'll try
scientific
and look for
temper.
a paper. There was an interesting paper which I have to search for it. I don't have it ready made, but it'll take some time. So that there was one paper which was testing what is the quality of questions that students ask in a science class. So they had divided that between like more of transactional questions, like small kids ask, "Ma'am, may I go to the toilet? Ma'am, which chapter which is the page number that we're going to cover today?" Or, "Ma'am, when do I have to submit?" These are very transactional questions which are not about concepts at all. And then there are certain questions which go to the surface level. So since you have started question making from students' point of view, also frame your own question. I think what you could do is create a rubric around what is the quality of the question which students are asking. Are they asking at a very surface level, and are the children themselves paraphrasing what is already there in the textbook? Or are they able to think beyond the text and form more connections? So you can create a rubric with 3 points, like 1 point would be at a lower scale and a 3 point, and share a sample with the students. This is the quality of work that I expect from you all. And you could do this with
We
one
should
chapter
say
and then continue
we
that.
should give them a success criteria, that what
Success
should be
criteria.
there. Yes,
Yeah.
sure, ma'am, of course.
Really
Thank
happy to
you.
hear this.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see some more responses here, but in the interest of time, I'll move a little ahead and I'll collect some of, Swarali ma'am, if you could share any photographs of some of these or any activity which they've done, the teachers have done regarding this. I would take a look at it later. But thank you so much, teachers. So let's come to, we looked at overall from the assessment point of view, and today what we'll be doing is we'll be looking at a question level, what makes a good question and how to create a good question. We'll also be exploring different question types which are now expected as part of CBSE, as well as the purpose that they serve. So the link which I've shared on the chat, if you all can open this, this is how this looks. Right, and I think you have the view access over here. I'll try and I think I'll keep it a view access because we have more than 50, 100 participants, and you could use your own maybe mobile phone or a notebook and write your responses here. And once you have done, like, we'll take around 5-10 minutes to go through the questions and rate the questions. Math and science teachers, I would request you to rate both math and science questions. And I have kept a mix of English, math, and science, all three. You also have children who, you have your own kids who are in school and who are learning all subjects. So even if you are teaching, English, from a parent's point of view, try and rate a question, try and rate even a science question. So ideally, I would request you to do this for all the subjects, even if it is not your subject. But because we have a mixed audience, I've kept examples of I've tried and kept examples from different subjects. So here is the question. So you have one question, you have different questions on this page. Just scroll through and go through the question. I have not mentioned the class or anything. Don't worry about the grade level, but try and rate it. Ki 1 is the worst and 5 is the best. So 1 means ये मेरे पेपर में मैं नहीं रखूंगी, ये बहुत खराब सवाल है, it does not deserve to go on my paper. 5 mean it's a very good question. I would like to keep this question in the paper. And 3, 2, and 2, 3, and 4 are somewhere in the middle. So if you're saying the question is at 2 or 3 or 4, which means ki thoda bahut to theek hai, but some tweaks need to be made. So try and think, why is this a 3 or why is this a 4, and what would make it a 5? Right? Is everybody able to access this? Please give me a thumbs up. Right now it's 7.
Now,
5.
most of them are not able to open it. Please check that link.
It's public, so
Mhm.
anybody who has the link should be able to open this. Otherwise, I'll just share one by one. I'll share the first question. You can look at the first question here and note down your rating, and then I'll scroll down. Right, this is the first question. Which of the following carries the genetic information? Chromosomes, DNA molecules, the nucleus. Right, and these are the options. Don't worry about the class. Imagine this is grade appropriate. Just look at the quality of the question, the distractors, the correct answer. Right, I'm moving to the next one. This is a math question. Rating from 1 to 5, and why have you given this rating? Okay, going to the next one. This you might have to read a little. I'll zoom this. Yeah, there's a small excerpt, and there are 2 questions given. Rate both the questions. Done? Okay. Question 5. Question 6. Question 7. And the last one, question 8. I'll zoom this as well. Okay, I'm going to go back to the presentation and I'll put these questions in front of you once again. And now I want you to tell me, teachers who have rated this question, what rating have you given? You can unmute and answer. Would this be a 1? Would this be a 5?
It's 5, ma'am.
Okay, why 5? I'm noting these things down. Yeah.
Ma'am, because the distractions are very good. The
Okay.
chromosome, DNA molecule, and nucleus. Like chromosome, if we take chromosome, it contains DNA, right?
Okay.
And chromosome, they contain coding and non-coding regions also. Means they carry hereditary information also, and some are the silent region. But
Okay.
if we say DNA molecule, it is the exact material which get inherit, which is responsible for expressing the character.
Yeah.
And nucleus in general, it carries nucleoplasm with the chromosome. So
Okay.
DNA. So that's why I think it's very nice question.
Because all of the options will force students to think.
Yes.
Is there any disagreement? Is there anybody who thinks that this is not a 5? It should be a 4 or a 3 or a 2?
Ma'am, I feel it's a direct, even though
Hmm.
for the somebody like me, if I see it, for me it's a direct question. Which of
Yeah.
the following carries a genetic information? Maybe like the ma'am explained, it could be different, but for me, if I see it's a direct question.
So what
I
rating
could
would
go
you
for 2 because it is just asked.
Acha.
There's no interpretation as such. There is no connection to the real life examples, something wherein it is putting them into a situation and thinking about it. It is too
Okay.
direct and too plain for me if I look at it.
Okay. Anybody else? So we have 5 and 2. Okay, ma'am. So if you made it a 2, is there any modification that you would like to make to this question to make this a 5?
Yes, ma'am. If it's a modification that if I have to give, I will add it to a real life example. Like if suppose a person XYZ is suffering from some disease. So
Hmm.
if it is, carrying out to somebody else, so what could be the reason for it? Is it the genetic things or a DNA, DNA, or I don't know the exactly terminologies of it, but that could be the way that I could tweak it. Sorry for that.
Uh,
So that way I could tweak it, like to get the information something out for a genetic information. So somewhere down the line that way.
Okay, interesting. You all can keep adding your comments here, and the science teachers who are in the group, like look at the responses which your colleagues are giving, because now this, do you see this difference in opinion? One person is saying 5, one person is making 2, saying 2, one person is saying we can make it into a case study. So, so now these are decisions which you'll have to make. Is it necessary that all questions need to be case study questions? Like, is it wrong to have a direct question in the in your paper? In case you're having a direct question, then what should the quality of that direct question be? So those are things which we need to think about and make decisions on. Kamini ma'am says question is clear and conceptually strong. It requires students to differentiate it between related biological terms. Okay, encouraging understanding. But there's still one problem with the question is that there are possible misinterpretations. So, like ma'am said, nucleus, if a child says कि nucleus के अंदर chromosomes and like if they lay those 3 things out together, one option which is missing is only one. Right now we have 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. We don't have 1 and 2 and 3. So technically, there is a chance for ambiguity, like ambiguous nature of the question is not fully like it's not. It leaves room for ambiguity. So if some minor tweak would have to be made, then I think then this question will become better. But right now, in my opinion, this is not a perfect question. There is still some chance where a student will say आधा mark दे दो, या फिर like technically also, like maybe you can say 1 and 2. The either the stem needs to be changed, or else like the options need to be changed in a way. Are you asking the exact? Are you do you want students to answer just the DNA, which is directly responsible, or do you want them to take a broader viewpoint? So the question needs to be tweaked slightly. So I would say this is at a 3 or a 4, and not quite at 5. But the reason that I don't think being a direct question in itself is something which is wrong. Again, it depends on the purpose of the paper. So if you right now we have a mix of questions. We are not looking at the entire paper. If we look at the entire paper, then we can say that ye question, like 50% of our questions are becoming too direct. So I think we should remove these and we have to make modifications to these. But when you're looking at one question, I would request you all to look at it from the boundaries of that question itself and not from the entire paper's point of view. Is that clear? Right. Let's move to the second one. What about this one? I don't remember. I don't think I had kept this in the sheet. Let me just check again. But what do you think of this question? Would this be a 1 or a 5 or a 0 or a 3, 2? वो भी direct है, ये भी direct है. उसमें और इसमें क्या फर्क है? हाँ, 1. Everybody is saying 1. Why are you saying 1?
Options are there, ma'am. I mean, without any
Pure
you know,
recall and
yeah, purely just recall is there, so there is no question of getting confused. Either it's a right or a wrong, like that.
Another thing is, why is it important to know where was Minamata disease first seen? Right? This is a conceptual question, this DNA question. This is an important information for students to know. This is also factual. This is also factual, but the fact here is trivial, right? So it's not bad to have factual questions in your paper, but the facts that you're testing should not be trivial facts. Right? Let's see another example. This is originally from class 4, and the concept of competency is representation of fractions as a number. So do you think this is a 1 or a 2 or a 3? What rating would you give this? Swarali ma'am, I'll need your help. So maybe the teachers are putting it on chat. If you could summarize and tell me majority teachers what they are thinking.
Yeah, okay, ma'am.
So is this...
Yes, teachers, please type 1, 2, 3. Till now, we have only 3 responses.
Okay, what are those responses?
2 teachers are saying 2, and yeah, 2.
So Minamata disease wale question se ye better hai, but why is this not a 5? Why have you given this a 2?
Nisha ma'am is saying again, not an overarching question.
Right, so okay, this is not fully trivial, but it is still more recall based. And one reason which I can share is ki, okay, it's important to know what numerator and denominator are and what this bar represents. But overall, students should know the relationship between parts and wholes. That's what's more important. So if you want to test representation of fractions as a number, students' ability to understand truly what a numerator, how parts and wholes are connected, that would be, and how that forms a fraction, that would be a better question than just labeling the parts, right? So again, this is not a question which is it really worth understanding this at class 4? Like all the fractions are introduced in class 4. the key terms are not important. The more important, concepts again are parts and wholes and their relationship and how they are represented. Right, let's move on to the next
Ma'am,
one.
I have a question here. Can you please go back to that question? Yes.
Which
So
one?
you
This
said
one?
that, I mean, here we said that suppose if as a child who's in grade 4, for the first time, if this is introduced, don't you think he should know what is a numerator and a denominator? And if the fraction, a divide is there, he should understand that it's a division. For me, it's an essential question, and this is a basic core concept that a child should know in that particular grade in terms of remembering, because see, misconception happens from here only. If the child is not aware what is that
Numerator and
that
denominator.
line stands for, and because I teach my son also, so when I teach him sometimes where to put the dividend, where to put the divider, so for him he needs to understand. This is actually an essential question for me. I do differ with the point that it has to be given to looking at the age criteria, because it's a grade 4 question.
Okay, so now think of it this way. Is the word vinculum really important? Or is the labeling more important, or the concept of how division, how fractions represents division, that is more important? And can you
At
think of
this
a better
point,
question to test this?
like I said, at this point of time, when I'm introducing it to a student of that particular grade, understanding of denominator and the numerator and the division, what that is more important. I mean, for me, if you ask, yes, after that identification, then I could go ahead and understand the other concepts. But here I feel, I mean, I might be wrong, like I said, but then for me as a teacher of teaching to that particular grade, I think this should be more important. It is an essential question for me, like that.
No, fair enough. Now, one homework for the math teachers here is look at the textbooks and look at, okay, the question here is saying name the parts, right? This is a purely recall based question. This is not testing understanding of numerator and denominator. Now, okay, knowing the terms is important. You can't, it gives us a common language to talk about and build on future concepts. Now, what you could do is look at some variations in which you can truly test the understanding of numerator and denominator even without knowing the word, right? This is just a nudge for you. Try and look for concepts. You can look at past asset papers. You can look at any source. You can ask ChatGPT or anywhere. Try and search. Are there better ways of testing the understanding of numerator and denominator beyond just asking students to label the parts, right? And how will you make that grade appropriate for a grade 4 level? So perhaps you can ask this in a, as an exit slip once you've introduced the terms. But beyond this, maybe if the chapter has XYZ concepts, I may not put this in an assessment. I may give this as a homework. So that is a choice that we will have to make. But fair enough. I do agree that knowing the terms is important, but it like whether it's core understanding or not, like we have questions in our asset also where we're not even using the word, we're not even introducing formula, but we're just asking students, does this shape have a perimeter or does this shape have a boundary? So we would feel that before even knowing the formula, students should know the concept of perimeter. So before labeling the parts, we would the understanding of numerator and denominator, even if they're not using the same terms, even if they're not using like labeling is one step, but beyond that, can we build understanding beyond this? So that's something that you can try and look for better questions, which you might include at a grade 4 level. But I do think that this is not a 5. This may be a 2 or a 3. Not quite 1, but maybe at a 5. Let's look at this English
Yes,
question.
ma'am, and most of the teachers are saying 2.
Okay, yeah, most of the teachers are saying 2. Now, let's look at this question. Here also they're saying 2. Swarali ma'am?
No.
Which of these is
We need to
better?
wait for this. Yeah, teachers, please read this question and give your response.
May I, ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, I would give the first question, how many trees were growing outside Oslo? So I would give 2 marks for this question.
Okay.
And the second one, I would give 4 to 5 marks to the second one.
Okay, why are the books unusual?
Because
Now,
if you
why
read this,
is this rating given?
because ma'am, if you read that excerpt, so the first question is totally based on the recalling. No reasoning or no interpretation have been asked with that question. Only the recall question: how many trees were growing outside the Oslo? But if you see the second question, why are the books called unusual? So at that time, we are testing the cognitive level where the student have to analyze the question and then give the reasoning for that. And they are not merely doing the recall.
So when they have to analyze, already they have to use textual evidence. They have to figure out which line is indicating the reason behind the books being called unusual, right? So
Yes.
I agree with you. The first question is testing very trivial details. Now, a challenge for English teachers is when you have a passage like this, it is incorrect to say कि recall questions hatai do from the paper, right? Even in ASSET, we test direct recall questions. But what is the nature of the facts which are being recalled from the passage? So is there a better fact which the student may actually, it's worth looking at in this passage or in any other passage compared to a trivial fact? How many trees are planted or growing outside Oslo? That's not really important to the larger scheme of things. But what are some like more important details which could be tested using recall? So I'm not saying again and again ki only analysis questions, only inference questions, only like synthesis based questions are better and completely remove direct questions. But what is the fact, the nature of the fact which is being tested, that really matters. So this would be a trivial fact. And can we come up with a better fact which is worth testing, and a better way of testing factual information or factual recall from the same passage, right?
Ma'am,
So
can
then
we
we
can
have
we
apples
say,
to apples.
ma'am, can we say that suppose in a science the digestive parts of a person is very important to know? Don't you think that could be one of these example wherein the factual questions have to be tested? Maybe the intestine parts, maybe the kidney parts. So this could be
Yes.
something that the student should know in that particular level, isn't it?
Exactly. And again here, knowing what carries genetic information, that's more important. Knowing when was this disease first found or first seen, that's not important. So keep this in mind that not all direct questions are bad, but when would you use this? Would you use this in a homework assignment, or would you use this in a test? And try and observe the questions which you look at the ASSET questions. We again test recollection of facts within science. So try and see how those are being tested, right? And then you'll get an idea. Now, this question: which of the following is an environmental friendly source of energy? What rating would you give this? Yeah. Sources of energy.
Smriti ma'am is saying 4.
4. Okay.
Ma'am 3.
Imagine from a student's point of view, what option would you expect the student to answer out of these 4 options? Will you give a right answer for wind power or hydropower, or what would you give in that way? Is the question good?
Sucheta ma'am is saying options need to be changed.
Yeah. So a question depends on the option. You cannot just say कि मुझे STEM अच्छा लगा but options change करना है. The crux of the you have to look at the entire part. So here the options are not, again, there is no clear answer, and there are multiple interpretations of environmental friendly, right? So even wind power and hydropower can damage the environment in different ways. There are pros and cons for each energy source. So when you put that in a recall format, textbook में ये दिया हुआ है, तो the child will just read the definition and answer, and they will not apply their own brain. Ki why is one source environmental friendly? What is the parameter which I'm using to determine something as environmentally friendly? So the question should be phrased in a way that it is unambiguous. So the same thing, if you can create it into a case based or an essay, a free response question, and then give those conditions to them, then you can get better responses out of students. Another one, mention 3 adaptations that can be found in aquatic plants. What rating would you give to this question? Okay, 2. Why is it a 2? We have about 10 minutes. I would like to summarize the theory behind this, because this you will need to use when you're creating questions next time. So, any reason why this has been given a 2?
So Nanda ma'am is saying picture has no relation with the question. That's why
Exactly.
it's 2.
Exactly. So thank you so much, ma'am. And bang on, the image is unnecessary. Images are good to have, but it should be used only if it adds value and helps in interpretation of the STEM. So this is completely unnecessary. Right, and then again, there are other debates. Is this directly lifted from the textbook, or sometimes to make the question different from the textbook, we add we add images, and so that the students are not directly based going on memory. But now in this case, the image is not really helping the student in any way. This one as well, which is the odd one out. So imagine this is a younger child who's answering a question. And they are maybe learning the skill of classification, or any skill, just classifying objects or figuring out common similarities and differences between objects. So would this be a good question? I know this looks random. This is not related to any of the subjects shown so far. C and D both. Okay, pictures can be added to make this question better. ठीक है. But again, here, odd on what basis? So if you look at Shehnai, it's the only name, it's the only Indian instrument over here. So by that respect, Shehnai is odd. When you look at the material based on which these instruments are made, a trumpet is made of metal, drum is made of wood, drumstick is made of wood, and then you have flute made of wood, Shehnai also. So now, based on material, then you have a different answer. Based on the name, you have a different answer. Based on whether you're using, is it a wind instrument or a percussion instrument, you have a different answer. So there's again such things when you're asking students for an opinion, even with respect to, even if you convert this into a subjective answer, you need to have a very clear basis for which you are asking the student a question. This question again is horrible. This should get a 0, because this is completely ambiguous and multiple answers are possible, right?
Yeah, and Smriti ma'am is saying clarity and criteria.
Clarity and
there.
criteria, exactly.
Yes.
And now we have this one. Gravitational pull of the on the moon is dash that of the Earth. Again, okay, D is the correct answer. I know all teachers know this, but rating wise, I think I'm seeing a lot of 1s and 2s. So why is this a 1 and a 2? Again, because it's testing pure recall. It's not testing anything beyond that. So suppose if a child gets selects 1 by 2 or 1 by 3 or 1 by 4, we're not getting the diagnostic information in terms of why are students selecting these options, beyond the fact that they have not remembered the fact. They don't know the scientific fact. And it's also not telling us what misconceptions students may have. So that is why this is not a good question. This is again a very textbookish question which should be avoided, testing pure recall. And again, recall is not bad, but the way the distractors are designed really makes a difference. Now, this is the final question. Which set of words completes the given sentence meaningfully? And you have combinations of there, and there. Is this a good question? or is this a poor question?
Five, 4, 5, 5.
Yeah. So I feel this is a very good question because it is now capturing, it is very clear, the answers are unambiguous. The concept which is being tested is, again, very clear that these are some commonly confused words for students. And it is giving you very clear diagnostics in terms of where are they confused. Are they confused between THEIR and EY apostrophe RE, and where is the confusion? Based on the answer, you can get very clear diagnostics in terms of where students are going wrong. Right? So this is a good question. Now, just a summary, I'm going to just recap that a good question should influence how and what students learn. It stimulates thinking, it provides feedback on learning, and distinguishes between mechanical learning and learning with understanding. And it helps teachers also identify the common misconception and errors. Now, what is there are different types of MCQs out there. We have true and based on the format, you can have not just MCQ, but we have different question types. We have true and false, match the following, very short answer. You know this already. Based on the type of response, we have close-ended, open-ended, and then we have free response or limited choice response. Based on the skill being tested, you have at different cognitive levels, you can have questions. Now, the components of an MCQ, when we were doing the question rating, I noticed that in certain cases, the teachers felt that the STEM was very good, but did not pay good attention to the options. So when you're as a designer or as a reviewer, when you're looking at the question, you have to look at each and every part. Is the picture making sense? Is the instruction making sense? Is the question STEM given very clearly? Khali stimulus de diya aur uske baad kuch question nahi pucha, then the students will be like, what do I do with this information? Is there anything missing? Right? And do you have the distractors and do you have a very clear answer key? And the answer key should be very clearly correct. And clearly correct means not obvious, but you should be able to justify that this is the unambiguous correct answer, and the distractors should be definitively wrong. Not to say that distractors are easy to eliminate, but ultimately each option should be incorrect. There should not be an ambiguity ki iske liye half mark de do, iske liye half mark de do. Right? And in terms of format, we have two types of MCQ which we commonly use. We have simple select, so in which you have one question and one response to be selected, and you have multi-select questions, like you have multi-response and single select. So for example, here you have combination shape 1, shape 2, shape 3. You have 3 responses, but ultimately you have to select only between option A, B, C, and D. So this is a complex MCQ. We call this an A type. So if you imagine, the figure of A, it's pointing towards one direction. And this we call a K type. So you have multiple responses, but ultimately you have to converge and come to one particular answer. So your response could be shape 1 and 3, but ultimately you have to select either option B or C or D. So in math, you can include this even in lower grades depending on the difficulty level of the concept, but it's recommended that you do not include too many of complex MCQs because the cognitive effort taken to first understand the options and then select the combination is too much. So in terms of the ratio, how many complex and how many simple MCQs to keep, that is something which needs to be decided based on the difficulty level of the concept itself. Right? And then we have case-based questions. Case-based you require a good stimulus. You need the stimulus could include a paragraph, a graphic, a table, a chart, or a diagram. And these form your stimulus. And then the selection really matters. The stimulus should be age appropriate and engaging. It should the information provided by the items may determine the ability level. So suppose if you're giving a very complicated stimulus and then asking a very easy question based on that, that is not a good practice because why did the student put so much effort? And just to answer a very direct recall question, which is testing something very trivial, why did the child have to go through so much effort, right? So the level of the stimulus as well as the level of the items based on the stimulus should somewhat match. So if you're giving a stimulus based question to a lower grade child, then make sure that at that level it is engaging. It is just one small paragraph, or it's just one simple graph or something which they are learned already. So if you're asking a stimulus based question in science and you're giving a science based table, then students should know ideally what tally marks are. Students should know, should be able to interpret basic pie chart or basic bar graph. If you're asking them questions based on a histogram, or you're asking them questions based on mean, median, mode, which they've not learned in that class in a science paper, then that is a poor stimulus, right? So the level should really match. These are some examples. It could be a factual article or a piece of news or a descriptive passage. There's a variety of text that you can include. So this is on football and blind football championship, and this is for an English item. And then you can give them some actual math statistics. You can give them, you can give them again based on different sports, different. You can give them some pollution weather report. So variety of text can be given as part of the stimulus. And this is another one. So this can be used even for geography, right? So you have a map over here. Not necessary that you have to ask comprehension questions. So again, maps can be used as stimulus within in geography as well. So when students are learning scale, small scale, large scale, you can give them 2 scales of actual maps and then ask them to define that or figure that out. When you're asking on shadows, put pictures of actual shadows and actual objects. Those are stimulus. Now, some caveats to keep in mind. The question maker should not write and create their own content, because there are always chances of errors. Use authentic sources, right? And when it comes to schools, have a lot of freedom. You can, for educational purposes, you don't have to really worry about copyright. But for us, we have those, we have a lot of restrictions based on what we can include. Again, should be age appropriate, engaging, should not be directly taken from the textbook. So textbook में भी कुछ आजकल दिए हुए हैं, some cases, some activities which are given. So don't include those in the exam directly. And again, stimulus should not include language which is discriminatory or insensitive, inappropriate. Don't give them on murder statistics, right? So don't give them such heavy topics, stimulus based on such heavy topics, unless you have already discussed this in your class and you have control over that. And I think we are towards the end. Last May, I would like to show you relationship justification. So CBSE calls everything assertion and reasoning, but relationship justification is the correct term. So if you see, there are relationships given over here. A is the result, 1 is a result of 2, 1 is the reason for 2, 1 is independent of 2, or 1 contradicts 2. So these are some statements based on which you have to look at relationships, not just assertion and reason, but contradiction, independence, or connection between statements. So that is relationship justification. And of course, this is assertion and reasoning. A is false, R is true. A is the cause of R. So why is it useful? You have assertion reasoning, you have cause and effect, you have main idea and supporting detail, which you can use for English. You have problem and solution. And then why is it useful? These are, again, they lead to deeper understanding of text and integration of complex ideas, and also help students in writing. So if you can form relationships like this, cause and effect, reason and result, and contradictions, then if you're able to figure this out in an MCQ, you can also, you have the ability to also expand that and use that in writing free response items and to do project work and those sort of things. So when you're looking at environmentally friendly sources, you can create questions in such a way where you can give them some statements and make students form opinions, or look at some of the statements based on those facts, and then that can also help them write an essay on something related to the environment. And this is the summary. You have simple STEM and 4 options and multiple complex items, relationship justification, and case-based. And of course, you have your subjective questions, 1 mark, 2 mark, and 3 marker. We are sharp at 6. We will cover this in the next session. How do we start creating the MCQ? We'll do this in a bit. What is the process for creating an MCQ? And then we will do the practical aspect for where we'll take around 20 minutes and break into breakout rooms, and then create questions, and then do all the review process. So I hope this exercise was useful. Understanding the sort of the art and science where the disagreements come. Where do we feel I feel this is a 5, but my colleague thinks it's a 1. So that is where the art and science element comes in. And as homework, please try and please try and select the concept and the learning objective that you would want to create question on in the next session. So over to you, Swali ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aarti ma'am, for this session, and thank you so much, teachers, for joining in. And we have this feedback form. Link is there in the chat box. Please give your feedback. Your feedback is very important for us. And do that homework which is given by Aarti ma'am.
Ma'am, the link
And
is not clickable, ma'am.
again, doing it again. Now?
No, it is clickable. I'm doing it.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. This is
Copy that
open for all.
link and open it in the new tab. It will work.
Yes, it's working.
I think Aarti ma'am left. Yeah. If you have any question, you can put a mail to me. I can forward it to them. So they can clarify our doubts.
स्वराली मैम ये लिंक ओपन नहीं हो रही है.
हो रही है मैम, हो रही है. आप दूसरे टैब में जाकर ओपन कीजिए. हो रही है, ओपन हो रही है. इट्स ओपन टू ऑल.
स्वराली मैम ये कॉपी
मैम ये कॉपी भी नहीं हो रही है.
Ma'am, link is not working.
मैम कॉपी भी नहीं हो रही
क्या
है.
उसको?
Copy भी नहीं हो रहा है, open भी नहीं हो रहा है.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
not getting copied, ma'am.
Ma'am, it's working for me. I have submitted.
Okay, so after see today I put as जो मैंने एक मेल डाला था उसी के नीचे मैं फीडबैक फॉर्म का लिंक डाल देती हूँ. I think that will work.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I think ma'am is here.
Yeah, I lost
If
my
you have
network.
any question, yeah, ma'am. Teachers, if you have any question, you can ask her. She is here. Those who have any question, they can ask. Others can leave. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pragya ma'am, please ask.
गुड इवनिंग जैन मैम. मेरा बस एक प्रश्न था कि रिलेशनशिप जस्टिफिकेशन एंड मल्टीपल ऑप्शन टाइप क्वेश्चन कैन बी फ्रेम फॉर द जिज्ञासा स्टूडेंट 3 to 5.
मैम 3 to 5 के लिए थोड़ा ये हार्ड हो जाएगा. आई फील कि जरूर सो I feel कि like ideally it's recommended to start including relationship justification from class 8 onwards. 3 is I think there are better ways in which the very simple MCQs ना, this is again a misconception कि simple MCQs बेकार हो गया क्योंकि ये थोड़ा fancy लग रहा है हमें. So simple MCQs में अगर the cognitive level for deciphering the question should not take up students' time. We want students to spend time on the concept and on answering the question. We don't want students to spend time on decoding the question itself. So grade 3 के लिए like might avoid अगर आप मैथ के लिए करें जैसे मैंने वो फ्रैक्शंस वाला क्वेश्चन दिखाया था वो ग्रेड 4 के लिए भी ठीक था. आपने अगर मैथ टीचर्स अगर इफ यू रिमेंबर वी हैव अ क्वेश्चन ऑन विच ऑफ दिस इज अ ट्रायंगल राइट. तो उसमें 3 शेप दिए होते हैं एंड फिर हम पूछते हैं शेप 1 शेप 2 1 and 2. तो आई थिंक दैट इज स्टिल ओके बट वो एक क्वेश्चन होगा पूरे पेपर में से. तो इफ यू कैन फ्रेम अ क्वेश्चन विच इज sort of simple मतलब it is not so complex कि लंबे लंबे sentences पढ़ के फिर उनको relationship justify करना पड़ रहा है, then I think you can include that.
Okay. So, ma'am, can we try to create with the Hindi subject for the class 4 and 5 if the part of practice part of the classroom अगर इसको classroom में as a class book का practice करा के HOTS के अंतर्गत अगर इसको हम लें तो क्या वो
Definitely आप ट्राई कर सकते हो क्लास 3 में. अगेन इसमें बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स आते हैं कि आपका कॉन्सेप्ट क्या है. तो फॉर एग्जांपल आप ग्रामर पढ़ा रहे हो और आप में आई थिंक सॉरी माय हिंदी इटसेल्फ इज नॉट वेरी गुड बट सपोज यू संधि सर्वनाम यू नो ये कॉन्सेप्ट्स आप जानबूझ के कुछ स्टेटमेंट्स रख रहे हो और उसमें बच्चों को ग्रेड 3-4 में ना बच्चों को याद ही नहीं रहता संधि सर्वनाम क्या होता है, व्यक्तिवाचक जातिवाचक क्या होता है. उसमें अगर आप कुछ रिलेशनशिप्स डाल दें तो आई फील थोड़ा मुश्किल हो सकता है. यू कैन ट्राई दैट विद अ फ्यू क्वेश्चन एंड शेयर योर क्वेश्चन एंड देन मे बी वी कैन डिस्कस दैट.
मैम मैं ग्रेड 4 and 5 के लिए कह रही थी, क्लास 3 के बच्चों के लिए अभी नहीं, बट क्लास
Yes.
4 and 5 के लिए. सो हम ट्राई कर सकते हैं उनके
जी
लिए.
ट्राई कीजिए एंड सी हाउ यू आर यू एबल टू कैप्चर मिसकंसेप्शंस. उसमें से आपको क्या इंफॉर्मेशन मिल रहा है. अगर आपको ज्यादा कुछ मिल नहीं रहा है, खाली आपको ये मिल रहा है बच्चे कर पा रहे हैं नहीं कर पा रहे, मे बी आप बेटर क्वेश्चन चूज कर सकते हैं जिसमें आप डिस्ट्रैक्टर और अच्छा बना सकें.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. There was a hand raised up.
Yes.
Yeah, Smriti ma'am,
Smriti.
please, your
Yes.
turn.
Aarti ma'am, my question is that I have attended your previous workshops as well.
Okay.
And every time we focus on that, we need not use any kind of a recall question in the paper. Simple recall question. So
No,
why is it so?
I don't think so.
We need to use those questions, no?
Yes, we need to use recall question, but what facts? Is it a trivial fact? Yeah, is it a something worth remembering?
Both.
Right.
We
So-
consider both.
No. So if you're giving them, facts which are not really important, right? Then I would say that is not something which I would include. But if you recall is not bad, it is good. But what you want students to recall, उसमें बहुत choice करना पड़ेगा. Is knowing the terminology important or knowing the concept, recall of concept or recall of terminology? Similarly, is it knowing when was this discovered or what was this discovered, or knowing actually how that how the body part works, right? So recall, maybe it is not so blanket. You have to make a difference between what's a trivial fact and an essential fact. So one recommendation I can share with you is कि हमारा एक CBSE के time पे we have created an essential concepts document. It's there on the CBSE website. We have a booklet which was created during COVID time. So there you will see certain concepts which are essential and certain concepts which can be skipped. वो because of time crunch we had included that. But for example, अगर आप math पढ़ा रहे हो तो Roman numbers is something which it's good to know, it's nice to know, but place value is really important to know, right? So if I have to make students do a recall question on Roman numbers, it may not be a good use of the paper. I can do that maybe through projects or through discussions or through my classroom. मैं पेपर में वो स्पेस नहीं यूज करूंगी, बट प्लेस वैल्यू का रिकॉल, knowing concepts of place value, that is more important. Similarly, knowing maybe facts about composite and prime number, that is important because उसके ऊपर फिर आपके divisibility वगैरह आएंगी.
Ma'am, I asked this question because when we talk about differentiation learning, and है ना, we talk about differentiation learning. So why not giving differentiation question also? Because some of the students which we need to cater, those the students who are on the weaker side. So these kind of a recall question may help them.
So that is a philosophy thing. So I asked this to my team also. मैंने भी अपनी content team से, जब मैं न्यू थी, मेरे भी ये questions थे. So the thing is, ultimately वो differentiated instruction का meaning क्या, like उसका purpose क्या है?
Differentiation का मतलब ये होता है, हमारी क्लास में अगर 30 स्टूडेंट्स हैं, तो 30 में से स्लो लर्नर भी होते हैं, गॉड गिफ्टेड भी होते हैं, एवरेज स्टूडेंट होते हैं. वैसे तो टीचर ऑलवेज फोकस ऑन द एवरेज, हम एवरेज को लेकर, बट वीकर स्टूडेंट्स जो होते हैं, वेयर वी ऑलवेज फोकस ऑन देम कि दैट लेट्स मोटिवेट दोस काइंड ऑफ अ चिल्ड्रन. सो इफ यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू गिव दीज काइंड ऑफ अ रिकॉल क्वेश्चंस, तो फिर कैसे होगा? जैसे कुछ होते हैं बहुत
वीकर स्टूडेंट्स है, वो भी मिनामाटा डिजीज का कहां,
अगर if this question is connected to some kind of a excerpt or information given,
yes,
तो फिर वहां पे वो recall question काम आ जाएगा ना, because though you have written that question separately, so हाँ, वहां जरूरत नहीं है मिनामाटा डिजीज, क्योंकि हमारे से कोई रिलेटेड नहीं. अब वही जेट स्ट्रीम मेरे इंडिया के मॉनसून क्लाइमेट को अफेक्ट करती है, तो मैं पूछूंगी, बट मेरी पोलर जेट स्ट्रीम अभी मैं इंडियन मॉनसून क्लाइमेट पढ़ा रही हूँ, तो वहां जरूरी नहीं है, तो मैं नहीं पूछूंगी. बट जैसे इन जनरल में
पूछ सकते हो. आई एम नॉट सेइंग वो हटा दो, आई विल नेवर से दैट, एंड also not
that is the confusion only I wanted to ask.
नहीं मैम, वो चॉइस, जैसे आपने वो ग्रेविटी वाला क्वेश्चन देखा ना, 1/6 वाला, that is an important fact for students to know. but उसमें आपने अगर options देखे 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, the MCQ maybe is not a good format for that because आप 3 options waste कर रहे हो.
अच्छा
तो उससे अच्छा आप fill in the blank पूछ लेते. 160 पूछना था तो. तो आप 4 ऑप्शंस अगर आप पर्पसली रख रहे हो, हमारा ये है कि कहना है कि हर जो चीज हम क्वेश्चन पेपर में डालते हैं उसका पर्पस क्लियर होना चाहिए. फालतू का बस फिलअप करने के लिए नहीं डालना है. Another thing is, even for the weaker students, it is unfair to like just उनके marks बढ़ाने के लिए we should not give them questions. The choice of questions even for them should be that कि ये question के through बच्चा at least कुछ तो सीखे and they move to a higher level, right? So ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि ये बच्चा नहीं कर पाएगा उसको हम 1 mark free में दे रहे हैं तो we are putting that question. So these are some debates we can both, ma'am, it is an art and science. वो बहुत discussion लगता है. Does it deserve the space or not? We have done it in a very short time. I'm sure आगे जाके भी बहुत discussions होंगे ऐसे department में. Yeah, thank you, teachers. There are 38 teachers who are still remaining. So I'm done from my side. If there's any doubt, you can ask me.
Okay, ma'am. Bye. Wonderful session.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Swarali ma'am.
Bye, Smriti ma'am, and thank you so much.
Thank you so
Teachers,
much.
do you have any question? You can ask her. Otherwise, we can end this session here.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
ma'am.
Aarti ma'am, we can end this session. Thank you, Aarti ma'am, once again. And whatever help you need for next session,
Yeah.
please tell me. We'll do it.
17th, right? It's on 17th.
17th, yes.
I'll share some of the requirements beforehand. Upside.
Yeah, not 17th. It's on 21.
21. Okay.
21.
Thank you, ma'am.
17th is
Bye-bye.
Monday. Yeah.
Thank you so
Bye,
much,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you.